Hello. It is 9:22 and p.m. and I basically just did fucking nothing all day. I I listened to my novel, vibed, and yeah, that's I thought a lot about like yesterday and stuff like that. So it wasn't like I did absolutely nothing, but effectively I did nothing. So okay, let me kind of, I talked about like, okay, some stuff happened yesterday. So I kind of want to unpack from where we were at, where the like scam happened, and then going forward for the rest of the day. So, you guys saw briefly this kind of scam happening. Um, it was mostly just me holding the camera off to the side while this guy is like talking. Um, but basically, um, I'm gonna explain what was going on in my head at the moment, and then how I felt later, and then my analysis now. So, how did I feel in the moment? Um, the man that I was talking to, he had a very aggressive demeanor, and I don't know if you guys can tell because all the you can hear all the audio. So like, if you pay attention, you can hear his like demeanor shift when he tries to get me to do things. But basically, the whole interaction started by him walking at me, friendly face, really excited, wanting to like interact with me, and I kind of just went with the flow to see what was going on. And I knew that like scams were around, but I didn't necessarily peg him as like, oh, he's gonna scam me. But yeah, he started like he basically his plan was get a hold of my arm, put bracelets on my arm, and then give me a bunch of other stuff, and then ask for money in return. That's his kind of ploy. And I was noticing that this was happening, but I was kind of still processing everything that was happening in the moment. And so I was just kind of observing. And in the process, he basically just kind of was like, okay, here's the stuff. And, every time that I would be like, oh, no, 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 it's okay. He would be very aggressive. And you can hear it in his voice where he was very aggressive at trying to get me to put the things he's giving me into my pockets. Um, and, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to see where this goes. And inevitably, like, once I'm about to leave, he's like, okay, now you give me money. And I'm like, I see what's going on here. Um, and so I thought to myself, like, I could make a scene. So here's kind of in the moment. This is the kind of layer of thoughts I was going through is I could make a scene for effectively, he was asking for 45 euros, which is obviously a lot of money, but like I could make a scene for 45 euros, or in this case, I gave him 60 euros, right? So my thought is, okay, I only have 20s, so I can't give him anything more than 20s. Um, and the best way to diffuse the situation So he doesn't try to get violent or some crazy shit happen. Is for me to, I want to extract myself from the situation and then reassess and figure out what I want to do more long term. I knew I was recording, so it was like, okay, I'm recording, I'm safe relatively. I have this guy like on camera. So it's like I can like bring it to the authorities and I can like show the authorities the whole thing that happened, right? So you can see that I'm relatively calm while this person is kind of trying to aggressively intimidate me. And so I'm trying to suss out what his like how much he's trying to value all of this at so that we can have an exchange and then I can leave. Even if he's not satisfied with how much I give him, that was kind of my thought. Because again, I noticed that there was multiple guys that he was in league working with that were kind of floating around. And so, again, if stuff started to get like physical or whatever, like definitely, I knew that there were like military personnel like posted in the area. So it's like I knew that I would be fine regardless of kind of how the situation unfolds. And I thought to myself like, okay, I'm willing to like lose 60 euros to like leave the situation. And then this is like a learning thing for me. So that's what I did. I basically gave the 60 euros, asserted that I had no more money, and then proceeded to extricate myself. And you saw I started like, okay, I don't have any more money. Sorry, thank you, bye. And I was like very much like letting the person know that like you're not getting more money from me. So if you want to like fight me, you can, but this is all you're getting. So, um, you know, and obviously like they've done this probably a lot. The dude's like, doing this for 7 years. I'm trying to feed my family, and which is probably partially true, but also like, yeah, obviously he's doing like a very shady, like unethical thing, right? Um, so there's that. Now, after the incident happened, my mind was like trying to sort through everything. So I wasn't really like, I was very hyper aware of like everything around me, but I was like, I didn't have time to like talk or like do anything else. And then on top of it, I had been already walking for quite a while. And so what I find out later is like, yeah, I was starting to overheat, but it's like it wasn't at a point where I was like actually like feeling any effects or anything. But there was that thing of like, I'm in heat that I normally am not in for a prolonged period of time while doing strenuous exercise. So, which you guys can say whether or not walking in 95-degree heat is strenuous exercise or not, but yeah. Um, but anyway, so next was okay. I need to kind of reassess like, okay, what's actually happening with me and what are my plans to like how am I going to deal with potential like harassment if this person tries to like harass me more. So because he kind of walked off and at the very end I kind of saw this like smug kind of like expression like, yeah, I got another one, boys, as he walked back to his group. So, it's like, okay, like hopefully he feels satisfied that he hoodwinked me out of 60 euros. It's like, I don't know. I kind of just pity him because of having to live a life like that. Um, so yeah, but anyway, so the first thing I did was I took off the bracelets because my thinking behind it was he probably has more people around the area. It's not just that one group. And so if you're wearing the bracelet, it's very possible that that's like being marked and that potentially more people, if you pass them seeing the bracelet, they're like, ah, one guy already got to this guy. We need to go harass him for something else, for like a follow up. So that was my first thought: is take off the bracelets. So you see me fumbling around with my wrist. You don't really see what I'm doing, but I'm taking off the bracelets. One of them was like tied really tight, and I'm like, okay, I gotta like get this thing off. And then later, uh, I noticed, I had a thought of like, okay, I have all these bracelets in my pocket, and these two like little figurine things. What happens if they go to the police and say I scammed them? Where they said they were going to sell me this thing, and then I didn't I didn't pay for it, or some other kind of variant of this where like there's like potential shenanigans that happen. Like I don't care about these things. I was kind of just given them, and I'm like I'm not interested in them. So, and also the malice with which they were given to me, there's no like sacred significance with this. Anything that's given in this fucked up manner, like even if maybe they weren't once sacred, is no longer the case. So like all of that is out the window. And so I'm like, okay, I need to just throw these away because my thought is if there's a scenario where I'm accosted, if I don't have anything on me and I just act like I don't know this guy, or I show the fucking footage, you know, uh, in either scenario, I'd be fine. So that was kind of my next thought. Um, and then later on, as I was walking, I was like, this is a really good learning experience on understanding that this is another one of those boundary setting things where not allowing this person to get access to my hand and wrist for putting these bracelets on and saying, I'm not interested. Thank you. I'm sorry. No, thank you. I'm not interested. And continue walking. That is the response I should be doing in the future. Regardless of who it is, regardless of what they're offering, um, I shouldn't get caught up in someone else's kind of flow. Um, and so that was a very valuable experience to kind of go through that. Now, the next thing, and again, this is a valuable experience. At this point, I had been walking around for over an hour in 90 to 95 degree weather. It was starting to cool down, but like it was still like in the 90s, the high 90s. I hadn't drank any water since I got there, and I had been sweating buckets. Like my shirt was completely drenched. You can see all of these like spots, darker spots on my shirt in the video as I'm walking around, and like the couple times I blow my nose and whatnot, that was like the visible signs on my shirt, but my entire body was drenched in sweat. Now, something that I didn't really kind of think about is not having electrolyte fluids and a bottle of water of some kind and slowly drinking it over time basically got me really dehydrated really fast. Way faster than I initially thought. Because I've had instances where, when I was walking, I walked for like an hour and a half and it was no big deal. I'd go back, yeah, I'd be a little thirsty and I'd just drink some water and it'd be fine. The difference is the heat was basically directly on me. I didn't have any shade. Like, yeah, there was some shade, but like the heat was very much like persistently on me. And yeah, quite frankly, I just I wasn't I was sweating more than I would be doing the walks. So I think those two things combined got me to this next part. So I met the buddy, the guy that is living here as well, and he was super nice. Really excited to like hang out. We start walking, and the food place is about 25 minutes away. And so we start walking, decent pace, about what I was walking before. And I started noticing as I'm walking and talking, it's slightly harder to like talk and breathe at the same time. And so as I am continuing to walk through this place, I'm starting to feel a little off and I'm sweating buckets still. And so at this point, we're almost at like 2 hours of me like walking without water. And I finally have this moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, I need some water. um, and the buddy also is like noticing. He's like, "Are you sure you're okay? Like, be careful. Like, have you drank water?" And so we ended up stopping at a convenience store to get some water. I got some water. It was helpful, but then the second thing that I made a mistake on is I drank the water too fast in the beginning. And something that is worth noting that's really important when you're trying to hydrate yourself, especially when you're already dehydrated, is to drink slow, and it can't be solely water. You need the other electrolytes, or you need electrolytes to like balance with the water to get full hydration. Otherwise, you will have what happened to me, which is I drank a bunch of water, like a normal sized water bottle worth of water, like 20-ish ounces, which is a lot considering I was dehydrated. Normally, that's not too big a deal, especially if you're just you just drink it, whatever. But when you're dehydrated, you dilute the electrolytes to where you actually get more dehydrated in the short term because you've diluted the electrolytes more by just giving water. So about 10 minutes later, as we're walking, I'm starting to have like my vision starts like specks, like dotted specks, like almost like blackout symptoms start like hitting my vision. And then my arms are starting to tingle, and then my legs are starting to tingle, and I'm feeling really weak suddenly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like And so I'm like, I tell my buddy, because we just get to the like restaurant that we wanted to sit in, and I tell my buddy, I'm like, oh my gosh, I am not feeling good. I need to like sit down somewhere like right now, somewhere like where it's cold. And then I notice a convenience store across the street with some steps, and I'm like, that's where I need to be. I'm gonna sit down on those steps. And so I just start going over there. I sit down, and the convenience store guy was so nice. He's like, "Oh, are you okay? What can I do to help?" And then the buddy also is like, "Oh my gosh, like what can I do to help you?" And my brain is not working very well. It's like it's like it became really hard to just say words. Not in like a like I can't say words, but it's like energy taxing to say words. Uh and so I'm like, I don't know. Like, do we have like hydration, like electrolytes? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just, I'm just tired. And so the guy gets his little fan and angles it on me. And then I have the water bottle. It's like about like this big. And I'm just like doing this, trying to cool myself off. And I'm like hugging the water bottle, and then people come in and they're like, "Oh, hang in there, stay cool, And I'm sorry, I know you tried to get past me, and I'm just like trying to squeeze to the side so everyone gets past me on the stairs, and everyone was just super nice and caring. The Again, the buddy that I'm with is also like super attentive. He's like, "Hey, maybe you should get a banana, like." Bananas have like some really good like uh, nutrients that will help you with like maybe getting you to feel better. And so I give him some money to go get the banana. And yeah, it was just, again, I was glad that there was people there that could like help me. Um, and then we found out that there was like a pharmacy nearby, like a couple-minute walk. That walk was pretty hard, but it was doable. Um, and we get there, and we buy, or I get this, which is an electrolyte solution. It has zinc, chlorine, potassium, sodium, and I don't know, citra, citrato. I don't know what that is in English, but anyway, it's like basically, yeah, it's really, it was very helpful. Um, and the guy spoke English that was at the pharmacy, very good English actually, and he was like, "Hey, don't take more than a couple of these a day, and don't take like you don't really want to take more than like two in a sitting." Um, but they're individual packs. They're these individual packs. Um, and so we took the remaining of the water that I had in my water bottle, and just poured 2 packs in, and we sat outside the pharmacy. There's like a little like square area that had some seats, and so we sat down. There were these massive wasps like this fucking big. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they are so huge. They were getting into the friend's bag, and yeah, then like I was feeling better, and then also the heat was getting less, um, and yeah, so then we're like, okay, we started chatting. The whole time we've been like talking randomly about like life and all sorts of stuff. The standard affair that I kind of get into when I like talk to someone who's like a deep person. And he's very deep. Uh, he's I'm very glad that I've been able to like interact with him and have great conversations with him. He's been very fun to chat with. And yeah, and it's also, I'll just say it's very fascinating to. So he's more of like a materialist, um, in his like philosophy, and I think that's so fascinating talking to someone who, like, I can feel this kind of spiritual side to him, but also it's like he's it's like he's disconnected from it because of this materialist viewpoint, where it's like he interprets the spirituality as like brain signals or different like materialistic stuff. And because of that, there's like a very limited scope on like this spiritual awareness, where it's like he subconsciously has it, and he interacts with it in his own way, which is very interesting. um but there's very much like a it's like there's a closed door that he hasn't really opened yet regarding the connection and the integration of the spiritual with the physical and the mental combining together. He's in a split state. And so, yeah, so that's just something I've noticed. And, I used to be there. I used to talk about how it was like really hard to reconcile the spiritual and the physical. Um, and, I'm not perfect, but I do think I'm a more integrated whole. Um, Obviously we always still got stuff to work on, but yeah. So, yeah, I was doing that, and then we ended up going and getting food. And one of the things that I noticed during this instance was it was really tough to eat. Like, surprisingly, I was like, wow, like I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten since, which again, I think also partially has something to do with all this. But I hadn't eaten since like, 12 or 1 in the afternoon. And by now it's like 8:30 or 8. No, it's like maybe it's like 7, 7:30. But like anyway, regardless, it's getting late in the day. And so we end up going to a restaurant, and I have a little of the meal. It tastes good. I enjoyed the meal, but I just couldn't eat most of it. And so I had it packed up for later, which I ended up eating at like 11:30 or something. And I was very glad that I packed it up because it was really good. It was good. Um, it's not the best meal I've ever had, but like, I like solidly, I enjoyed the difference in the way things were prepared. So, um, and the food was, again, if the food was good. So, but yeah. So in between all of this, we're talking and exploring all sorts of things, all sorts of concepts, and um, some like key ones that I think, well, we ended up talking until 12. Um, so I guess I ate at like 12:30 then. I ended up talking and then afterwards eating. so yeah. So I guess I fell asleep at like, I don't know, it was like 1:30 or something, 2 maybe. But anyway, um, yeah. So we ended up having some really cool talks. Um, some of the notable ones that I think I realize I need to sort and kind of really think about a concise way of explaining how I view the universe, if that makes sense. Um, and how I've kind of integrated the physical, the mental, and the spiritual together. Um, and kind of a lot of that stems from the idea that I feel a connection to this other part of myself, but that I don't know actually what that other part is. I assume it's myself because I'm connected to it and it feels like me, but I don't actually know. All my experiences lead me to believe that's the case. Um, but I do think, just as I think the friend should like think about um, figuring out how spirituality kind of fits into the materialist perspective. Um, I also should think about how, like, obviously, I don't want to have a rigid, this is how the universe is, and leave it at that. I always want to be open to the idea that I don't actually know. I'm making assumptions, and that's part of the ego um, trying to make sense of the unknowable. Because realistically, until we leave our bodies, death, we don't actually know what happens. We can speculate, but we don't know. And so um, I think it's reasonable to listen to intuition and to kind of follow through on, like, whatever practices make sense internally for you. That's fine, assuming that you're not doing anything fucked up, right? um but prescribing, I know it to be this way, I definitely shouldn't fall into that trap, because that is the ego's trap to perceive some sort of control over what effectively is unknown, and it's unknowable. Um, so yeah. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that people who glean insights from spiritual, like, channeling or all this other stuff, like, they have their own experiences, right? And to them, they have a different perspective and a different knowledge base and a different understanding. So they're going to obviously act differently. And I think it's important to be aware of, what are my experiences? What can I, like, with certainty say for me makes sense? And what is my ego kind of trying to demystify or extrapolate from effectively no knowledge? And then finding that kind of border, and then understanding that anything past that is it's not that it's unknowable forever. It's that at the moment I don't know. And it's okay to just not know. But also, it is fun to just speculate. And so, as long as I understand it's just speculation and it's not some concrete understanding that I build things on, it's kind of like Legos. Legos are fun. You build little houses and whatnot, but at the end of the day, they're Legos. And I'm not going to base all of my life decisions on a Lego house that I made on a table. So I think that's where I kind of have to draw the line. And as the line moves, I will update my experiences. And if I start learning more things, there's always the doubt of, is my mind making shit up? But I think it's important when dealing with spiritual things to realize that the mind doesn't really have power in the spiritual part of existence. And that actually we as kind of humans have devolved when it comes to spiritual tapping into like some sort of spiritual understanding, because we've been very focused on the intellectual knowing side and demystifying, which is good. Like, there are benefits, but also it's important to not lose your roots and to not disregard anything that you can't explain as, well, it's just a brain thing where it's just tricking us and it's actually nothing. That is kind of reductivist. And when you reduce things to a level of, well, if it's not physical and I can't explain it, then it doesn't exist or it's a figment of my imagination, you're effectively ceding the point that you're not willing to cross into unknowable territory and to allow for unknowable things to exist. And that's okay. Some people just can't pass that event horizon. And so that's where it's like, once you pass that event horizon and understand that there can be things that's unknowable that you can experience, you open yourself up to a whole new world of possibilities. And I think it takes a lot of strength to be able to accept that there is unknown things and to just kind of do the best you can with whatever experiences you experience. I've talked in the past about the tarot readings and the life before life stuff, and all the past stuff I've kind of gone through and experienced, the Reiki master. They're all experiences that have like impacted me in a very meaningful way. And I think it's important to recognize when you have an experience that's profound and that does impact you in a meaningful way, that you don't write it off just because it's something you can't really explain with traditional logic. Can I explain how I got to this weird state of void back, during COVID, where I was like in the void floating as like this one existence. Like, I can't explain that, but I don't have to. I had that experience, and there's a lot of insight that I've gleaned and a lot of understanding that's come out of that. And so, while I can't say what that experience was with certainty, what I can say is that the experience of dissecting all of that and understanding that's come out of that is real. I am a different person after that experience in a good way. And so that's kind of the takeaway I have is you may not be able to explain what happens, but you can have effects both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in that regard. And as long as you're open to allowing for any of these experiences to happen, and you keep yourself willing to have your mind view shifted, you can't really go wrong. You might go on detours, you might have some weird stuff happen, but like, if you're trying to explore yourself, being open is kind of really important. And, I think it's like being open, again, it's like balance. I always go back to balance, where it's like, I'm not saying float into the stars and be some like, fucking psychonaut astronaut that's like flying through different dimensions of reality and you do nothing in the physical world. That's not what I'm saying. Which, some people do that. They're imbalanced because they're focused more on that than on the physical world. And it kind of, there needs to be more balance. So, but again, that's how they want to do it, and that's fine. Maybe for them that's balanced. But for me that's not. So, yeah. Anyway. So I think that was like a lot of really helpful experiences. And I kind of came to a realization because of all this stuff that's happened. And I kind of want to bring it up. The things that I want to experience throughout my life when it comes to like travel and all of this other stuff, the trajectory. I enjoy hanging out with people who I can have meaningful conversations with, to explore different perspectives, and to go and just do stuff. To me, the thing that I'm doing doesn't necessarily matter too much. It's more of like interacting with someone, having a really cool experience, and kind of learning from that experience. And I know what you guys are probably going to think when I say that, because yesterday, objectively, you might say, well, dude, you got fucking scammed and you got heat stroke, or some, the friend that I was talking about, he mentioned like potential heart problems. And he was like, hey, like, I have some personal experience with this where I've seen people go through like heart issues. And so this feels kind of heart issue ish. So it's something to keep in mind and to go get it checked out at some point. It's not something that's like, oh my gosh, you need to like get it checked out right now. But it's like, you know, keep this in mind that maybe there's some weird heart thing going on or some artery thing or whatever, right? And I mentioned, like, I was like, I got myself checked out a couple of years ago. And they said that my heart was like totally fine. They literally did like an ultrasound, EKG, did like all sorts of tests to see if there's any heart issues. And they're like, they didn't see any. So, um, because I had mentioned to them, this is why I went and got checked out. Occasionally, I would have these weird like spikes that felt like there's like pain that would happen momentarily, and then they would go away, and then they would show up randomly, and then they would go away again. And so I mentioned this, and they're like, okay, well, we need to check your heart to see if there's any heart issues or weird things going on. And so they checked it, and it was fine. So it's not to say that there isn't something, but I'm going to keep it in the back of my head. But also, I suspect that it was a heat stroke esque thing that happened, where I just was low on fluids, and the heat just cooked me basically. Um, so that plus like doing a bunch of activity on top of that. So yeah, because I walk like, I don't know, it's like 14,000 steps, which again is not like, that's on the higher end, but also it's different if it's in the sun and it's really hot as opposed to it being cooler. So that's also something to keep in mind. But anyway, so getting back to this thing that I was talking about, I've realized that what I want in a more long term kind of situation is travel with someone that I care about. It could be a friend, it could be a significant other or partner, but having another person that I can enjoy the experiences, the ups and downs with as I go off exploring things with them, I feel like that's a core thing that I think is important, that I kind of want to have in a more long term like scenario. Because I think about like when I'm by myself, I'm not as interested in going out and doing things. I'll still do it, and I do push myself to go out and do stuff, but I don't feel super drawn to doing it. It's like I am pushing myself out of my comfort zone. So, like an example, yesterday, I totally just pushed myself out of my comfort zone doing all that stuff. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I had all the experiences, including the weird scam thing, and then the heat stroke, and then hanging out with the friend for a couple hours, and then chatting. Like, I'm glad I had all of that experience. However, I think that is not, doing it by myself for that first part was fine because I was filming with you for you guys. That was the main thing. I was like, I want to get the Coliseum. so that you guys could see the Colosseum. I don't really care about the Colosseum, if I'm gonna be honest. And it's nothing against the Colosseum. It's cool. But it also, it's just like, it's not my thing. And so, you know, my thought was, I'm going to get the Colosseum. I'm going to show you guys the Colosseum. And then on Sunday, I'm going to show you guys the Vatican. I don't know if it's Sunday. Maybe it'll be tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. But regardless, the plan is to show the Vatican. Those are the two big things I want to do here. I don't really care too much about the other stuff. I don't even really care about the two things I just mentioned. But I feel like it would be criminal not to come here and then not do those two things at the very least. Especially because it's like, I want to show you guys. So it's like, it's almost like there's someone with me that we're hanging out. I also have come to realize whoever the person is that's going to be like more long term travel with me, I want them to be okay with being a part of the videos. I haven't filmed anyone intentionally. I haven't introduced anyone on the stream. I say stream. It feels like a stream in the moment, but like I just don't have chat that I'm talking to. But like doing the videos, it's like, yeah, it would be cool to like have someone like with me. So yeah. So there's that. I also, as I kind of knew before, I'm just kind of reaffirming that I do an activity and then I take a day of rest. And then I do an activity. And it could be more than one day of rest sometimes. I don't know. It depends on the activity. But I think this like flow of 3-ish activities a week, where I'm out doing things, and then the other 4-ish days of like relaxing and not really worrying about stuff and just kind of focusing on like digesting and absorbing stuff. That feels like a good rhythm. So, yeah. Also, on a side note, I was looking at like places to stay for this next part of the trip. Oh my gosh, like the places are so expensive. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, I don't know where I should go because the places that I was thinking about going are like more expensive than I initially planned. I can do it, but like that's a lot of money. Um, so nothing really called to me. Okay, I say that, but like I feel like, oh, my buddy, the other buddy responded. Corvara seems to be the place I maybe want to go to. I don't know why, but so maybe somewhere there. I don't know yet. But then there was this other place that seemed good. Also, fuck, man, there are so many places that without AC. So it's like I'm being picky in I have to have AC. That is like non-negotiable. I will pay more to make sure I have AC. If I don't have AC, that's not going to fly. In this temperature, fuck that. Like I know what it feels like to try and sleep in 85 or 80 degree weather or 80 to 85 degree temperatures in your room at night because my AC at the old place was kind of bad. Um, when it got to like past 90, it would be 80 in my room, and I'd be like, fuck, this sucks. It's like 80, and it's like I'm trying to just live. It's like, oh my gosh. And so I can only imagine how fucked it would be if it was like, oh yeah, 80 is the low, not like 60, so that the room can heal on temperature and cool off. Um so anyway, yeah. Um just some thoughts. I am behind on doing um the the thumbnails. I have everything uploaded. I don't have today's upload or yesterday's uploaded, and then obviously I'm filming today. But I did compile everything or render everything. So I just have to. I'm gonna throw them both up at the same time to do it overnight. But probably should get to all the thumbnails tomorrow. It's like there's like 5 or 6 days of thumbnails I need to do. So, but at least everything's uploaded, and I type descriptions so I know like what my thumbnails are gonna be effectively. So it really is just taking like, I don't know, maybe like 30 minutes total to do it all. So maybe I'll do that tomorrow when I wake up. But yeah. Um I don't know. I just on a side thing, I had talked with the friend that like helped me out yesterday about this idea of like having challenging things be negative experiences. Where he kind of mentioned the idea of like having a negative experience. It's like, yeah, I didn't like that experience and I don't want to experience that again. And yeah, sure, I can learn from it, but it was a shitty experience. And, I used to think that way. But over time, I've I've completely changed how I see experiences that are tough. And I tried conveying that, and I think he understood my perspective. I just don't think that he is necessarily on board. He has a very different perspective than I do. But effectively, the way I kind of see like yesterday. So maybe past me before COVID, um, would have thought about the scam and then the heat stroke as like, oh my god, I had a shit day. It sucked. I can't believe this happened. Blah blah blah. Whatever. But like even in the moment, it was like I was glad I was experiencing the things I experienced because I knew I was going to get more insight and knowledge and understanding from those experiences. And it was also going to help me advance spiritually and a whole thing, right? And so in the moment, it was like I didn't see it as why is this happening to me or this sucks. I saw it as I'm so excited that I'm going to be able to learn from this. It's like I'm actually happy this is happening. And I know that's really weird for some people to like hear or think about, but it's like I kind of um I compare the two types of experience you can have as like, okay, under the paradigm of like, this sucks. Why is this happening to me? That kind of stuff. You have bad experiences. You can have neutral experiences that are neither good nor bad. They just kind of And then you have good experiences, right? And that's kind of how we have gradients, but that's effectively like how a lot of people kind of sort their experience. I had a really good day because this, and this happened. I had a really bad day because this, and this happened. Or it was just a nothing day and nothing crazy happened or whatever, right? And when you do this, inevitably, you're cutting off a major portion of your life and saying that a portion of your life will just be bad experiences and you're going to hate it. That's just what you like. By sorting it out into this gradient, there's going to be some really shit experiences, and then there's going to be some really amazing experiences, and then the rest is kind of bullshit in the middle. And so when you split it up like this, your mind subtly views these different experiences in the moment as like, oh my god, this shit thing's happening, this sucks, blah blah blah, whatever, right? However, if instead you view the negative things, the things you don't like, as growth opportunities and as challenges to overcome, you can shift your perspective to always be enjoying the experience, even if it's a challenging experience in the moment. And that's kind of where I'm at, is like, I don't view things as good and bad. I view things as challenging, enjoyable, things like that. They're all in a positive perspective, to where even when I'm effectively getting scammed, I'm like, this is cool. I'm glad I'm experiencing this. And, looking at it from that perspective, you can't have a bad day when all experiences are good. And it's just like, the experiences that are more challenging can often be more rewarding. So in the moment, you may be struggling, but in the long term, you're going to learn a lot. It's kind of, I love using video game analogies, so I'm going to use another one here. Achievements. Achievements in video games are do a hard thing, get a benefit. We don't look at achievements as, well, okay, some people do, where it's like, oh my god, this is such a shitty achievement to do. But like, you still do the achievement because you want the achievement. And it's like, there's almost this fanatical zeal that gamers have when it comes to achievement hunting. I gotta get every achievement. Or I gotta 100% the game. Or I want to beat the boss with these like special conditions so I can just feel really good about the way I did it, or whatever. It's like an accomplishment. The people who like literally are like, oh, I'm gonna play Dark Souls, but I'm gonna use a rusted dagger as my only weapon, or I'm gonna use my fists. I'm gonna do a no-hit Dark Souls run. I'm gonna do a no-hit Dark Souls run across all the Dark Souls. It's like, why do they do that? They don't have to. They do it for the challenge because they're learning. They love the like growth and getting all of this stuff like mastered. There's like a mastery level. It's the same thing in real life. You can do this in real life, where it's like you get excited for this new mastery levels, these new experiences that help shape you in new ways. And when you think of it from that perspective, it gets really exciting to just experience anything, because you're either going to have like some really joyful, blissful experience, or you're going to have some sort of challenge that you're going to overcome, and then that's going to help you too. Sometimes the challenge that you go through isn't, maybe you'll struggle or fail in like some sort of conceptual base way, but the challenge itself is about overcoming the failure and learning from it, or experiencing failure and coming out stronger, whatever it is, right? And so when you see life this way, it doesn't matter what you do. You're going to enjoy it regardless. So yeah. So I'm glad I'm happy that I had yesterday happen. That's it, you know. Um and that's kind of my philosophy and outlook. Um so yeah. But I've been talking for an hour. I probably should go. It's also like past 10, so I don't want to be too loud for too long. But yeah, just think about it. Um, and yeah, we'll do the Vatican either tomorrow or Sunday. I don't know which day. Uh, but yeah. Okay. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.